Thanks very much, comrades, for all of those points. And inevitably, there were things identified that, as soon as comrades raised them, I thought, yeah, that was a real omission. I should have addressed that. I think I'll pick up on this when Nick asked, what is the most effective way of prosecuting our struggle? And that is, of course, with reference to pooling of resources, a shared commitment to common work, and doing things in greater numbers rather than isolated and split, if that is possible. Because it brings us back really to the question, doesn't it? The question that I posed as the starting point we always have to come back to, which is what is required of us, what is required. The campaign, the struggle for a new mass communist party, although in my introduction I focused heavily on regroupment and the possibility of different groups and trends coming together, it is not all about that, of course. There's a lot more to it than that, but clearly with the state of where we are right now, the fact that we are so split into very small groups and even individuals just on their own for want of something worthwhile to get involved in, means that inevitably we end up discussing unity quite a bit. But it's very difficult to do. It's very difficult to do, and it means that we can't put all our eggs in that basket, because it's going to be difficult. There are going to be things that go wrong. There are going to be misunderstandings. And one example that came to mind, I mentioned earlier in the discussion, Communist Future, which was really it arose out of a shared commitment by a very small group of comrades here in Manchester. We'd known each other for a long time. We'd worked together in various projects, and we decided to see what we could do on a practical level with something bold and ambitious, and we decided to run an election campaign. Of course, I'm more than aware that many people might disagree with that as a project. It wasn't a unity project, but we did set out with the starting point, the assumption, one of our starting points was that we were advocates of communist unity, so communists coming together as communists and arguing for communism, not something less than that, no fudging of our politics. I was tasked with drafting a mission statement of sorts for Communist Future. It's a very brief document, one side of A4. And in one of the points I said, we think that there is no principled reason why communists should not be united in a single organisation. The tasks of rebuilding our movement and winning over a majority in society require us to do whatever we can to break out of our isolation and to be serious about unity in doing so. I thought that was perhaps quite a firm, but hopefully uncontroversial statement of what we need to do and how we need to approach it. I was surprised when a very dear comrade of mine, who I won't name, but took me up on it and took issue with it, and said effectively that they felt that they were being accused of being unprincipled if they didn't want to get involved with the election campaign. And I think there are really two conclusions to draw from that, two conclusions which I've drawn. One is the conclusion that I drew at the time, which is, well, look, if you can tell me a principled reason why you don't think that communists in this country and all other countries should be in a single united democratic party, then say so, and maybe I'll change my mind. But the other conclusion, of course, is that I had said one thing which I thought would be interpreted in a helpful, positive way, and it was interpreted in a completely different, negative way by someone who actually I respect as a comrade and who approaches things in a serious way and with the best of intentions and lots of good faith. And so that is as clear an example as you could possibly wish to find, that we need to have a lot more practice and a lot more experience talking to each other, bridging the divides between us, if we are ever to get closer to the destination which we all want to reach, of having serious links with millions of people that we don't even know let alone close friends and comrades, but people who we don't know, we've never met, who live in towns and cities we've never been to, and who we may never meet in the whole of our lives, and who nonetheless will be members of the same party as us. There needs to be something linking us together beyond the familiar personal ties, the narrow experiences, the experience of huddling together for warmth in a period of defeat for the left. There needs to be something much greater than that. Chris raised a really important and really helpful point where he said everyone, thanks Nick, everyone calls everyone else the sects. All the groups say that the other groups are the sects. And I think, in a sense, I agree, because I'd go one step further. I don't want to overdo it, but I'd go one step further. I'd say that any organisation, even that with the best programme, the best ideas, can end up becoming a sect, or may never reach a stage where it breaks out of being a sect. And you have to judge it by what it does, principally, what the organisation does, how it relates to those that it agrees with on paper, but also those that it disagrees with, and how it conducts itself internally and externally. But the best indicator of when an organisation starts its life is probably going to be whether it has a perspective of overcoming, of superseding the sects, whether it has a perspective that something different is required. Because I think if you start with that kernel of an idea that what we've had so far, for all that people have valiantly kept the torch of Marxism lit, and they should be commended for doing so, the kind of Marxist organisations that we've had up to this point have not been fit for purpose. They haven't done what we would like them to do, and they're not what we should try and build or rebuild in the next period. It comes down to the question of democracy, ultimately a significant part of it, because it was entirely right of Alice at the question, well, what does it actually mean to build a democratic organisation? Is an organisation democratic simply because it calls itself democratic? Well, I'm sure that citizens of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea would not think that their state is especially democratic simply because it has democracy in the name. And so it's right to judge things on their merits, by what they do, by deeds, not words. For me, I think it comes down to, with the sort of organisation that we're trying to build at the moment, it comes down to the primacy of politics. Because without open discussion, without every member of an organisation being equipped, being encouraged to take part in a discussion and to resolve political differences as equals, and being given the time and the space and the education and everything that's required in order to do so, there will always be those who are better in a position to put forward their ideas, and it becomes reduced to a question of those who are liked or in favour rather than out of favour. Richard said we must not allow bureaucracy to form, and I agree with the sentiment of that to some extent, but I think in practical terms that's wrong and impossible, because to have any kind of organisation you must have some degree of centralisation. To have a party you must have people who are given the time and the resources to get certain tasks done. Certain tasks inevitably, inherently cannot be achieved simply by being shared out among every single member. There is inescapably always going to be some bureaucracy. The question is not whether you have bureaucracy or you don't have it, but when it inevitably arises, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to counteract it? How are you going to make sure that the prevailing tenor of your organisation is democratic rather than bureaucratic? How are you going to achieve those things? these are all things which are difficult to have the answers to in advance. But will have to be worked out and should be addressed seriously. So I'm going to conclude there. It's been a really interesting discussion. I'd echo the suggestion that there should be future meetings, perhaps under the joint auspices of TAS and other organisations with whom we're in contact, because it is really clear that there is the potential there, in my view, for a united organisation. Even if that takes time to emerge, a united organisation of communists, even if it takes time to get to that, what I described as the first step, then there is clearly the basis on the way there for discussion, for resolving disagreements, for overcoming issues standing in the way of such an organisation, which may include past grievances, past difficulties of working together. Let's not shy away from that. There is the potential there to achieve all of these things. And it may well be that convening meetings of this type in places around the country where there are sufficient numbers of comrades who are able to come together in sufficient numbers to build that kind of unity will then lay the basis for that to happen on a more systematic level across the country. I think that would be an entirely positive step forward. There is all kinds of other important work that is taking us towards the future mass communist party that we need, that I don't have time to go into during this talk, but I think in terms of the tasks that we can set ourselves in the context in which we're in, divided between various small organisations and none, that's got to be a key priority for us. So I'll leave it there.
Well, thanks very much, Ed, for that introduction and reply. Really excellent stuff, and I thought that was a really good discussion. And I think, my own take on today's meeting is that although it's small in number, it's been very, very positive, because it's brought together people from different organisations and perhaps from none, who didn't really know one another perhaps before. So that's a step forward, and I think we've outlined clearly what our objective is in calling the meeting. And I think there's, from my reading anyway, I hope I don't overstate this, there's agreement that we should continue this process of discussing, and further meetings, whether in Manchester or elsewhere or online or a combination of all three, would be very, very positive. I'm not at all disappointed or alarmed at the fact there's only a few of us here. This has gone out to the whole world on YouTube, and if people have looked at it, if you've listened to what we've said and you find the ideas interesting or attractive, then do get involved, get in touch. You can contact us via the Talking About Socialism from a Marxist point of view website. That's talkingabout.socialism.org. You can find us on Facebook under the same name. You can find us on the YouTube channel, well, you obviously have because you're watching this. Again, press the subscribe button. If you want to find out more, there's an About section on the website which you can fill in a form. That goes to info@talkingabout.socialism.org. We'd love to hear from you. Any comments, disagreements, points that we've missed, points that you think that we should be talking about, ways that we could improve our publicity, our ideas, our presentation, please do get in touch, and we'd love to see you at one of our future Zoom meetings. They happen every fortnight on a Monday evening between 7:30 and 9. We'll advertise the next meeting once we've agreed a date, and hopefully we'll have a few more people here and a few more people watching on Zoom. Thanks very much for attending, and thanks very much for watching. Let's build this party. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.